knows that chant. We have not heard it too much this year here at Chase. That Warriors chant echoing through Chase Center. Schroeder with the ball at the logo. Guarded by Gilgeous-Alexander. Goes by him. Handoff. Payton goes up. And he dunked it on Hartenstein. Little elevation sensation for GP2. And the Warriors lead 114 to 105.
Dub Nation, this is GP2. My coach Steve Kerr joins Willard and Dibs right here on 95.7 The Game.
Woo, that was a very nice GP2 there at the end. And it takes a lot to get Tim to pull out the elevation sensation these days.
That one deserved it.
But he did it.
No doubt.
And that might have been the feel-good moment of the year. The Warriors take down the top team in the West, the OKC Thunder, and we get to talk to the head coach right after the fact. So here we go, River Island's guest line. Time for Coach Kerr, presented by Great Clips. In sports, success is about team effort, and the same is true for your hair. Great Clips, it's going to be great, just like last night was. Hey, Coach, did you dry off yet?
How'd you find out about that?
Oh, you know, there are birdies everywhere, as you know. Yeah, take us. So what happened when you got in the locker room last night?
Well, there's context to it, but the night before, after we beat Utah, I walked into the locker room and, you know, everybody's on their phones and not even paying attention to me. And so I asked the guys, I said, hey, did anybody see the Arizona game last night where kid hit the 60-footer to tie the game and send it to overtime? And they said, yeah, we saw it. I said, well, on SportsCenter, they showed the coach, Tommy Lloyd, when he walked into the locker room and all the players went crazy and doused him with water. I said, how come you guys never do that to me? Like, I just walk in here, you don't even know I'm here. I said, I want, at some point, just please pour some water on me. And so they were ready for me last night.
I said, boy, you got to be careful what you ask for then, I guess.
Got to be careful. I walk in there, and some of the guys started, you know, spraying the water bottles, but there were two unidentified Warriors who they acted like we had, you know, won the Super Bowl. They dumped the full Gatorade jug on my head. It was fun. It was a great moment.
It was a lot of fun for the fans and for everybody to watch as well. And so I'd love to ask it to you this way. Like, obviously that's you guys at your best, but how repeatable is that? What you saw from all of those individuals last night?
Well, that's the key, right? We have to sustain this and find a way to be more consistent as a team, and we know we're capable, but we just haven't been able. The last couple of months, we have not been able to make it a consistent theme. So that's the goal. I believe we can do it. I believe in our guys and our team. We got a lot of good players, and when we put it together, we're pretty good. So we got to do whatever we can to make that happen again.
Coach, you obviously had a lot of success as the head coach of the Warriors, but you have been through some rough patches, and I know you guys are in the middle of one right now. So one win, I know a win against Oklahoma City and a win against Utah, despite where they are in the standings, it means the same in terms of where you are in the standings. But what can one win against a team like that do? Is that something that you can build off of and make it a turning point?
I think so, because I think what's been lacking, the last month or so is just confidence. And I think a game like last night can really build confidence and remind the guys how good we can be. And we've got an important stretch here now coming up. You know, we got a little momentum. We know what we can do. So I think these games coming up are big. If we can capitalize and get on a little run here, I think we got a great opportunity to get back on track and put ourselves right in the thick of it again.
Steve Kerr with us on Willard and Dibs. Coach, I want to ask you about the fourth quarter and the way you sort of like worked Steph in and out of the game. But let me start by asking this: Who decides Steph's minutes? Is that you or him usually?
It's always a collaboration, but we have a general idea of how many shifts he will play, and so at times during the season I might go to Steph and just say, hey, what do you think about doing this instead of what we're doing now? And he's always very honest if he doesn't like something we suggest. So we make sure that he's on board. And, with this year's team and at his age, where he is in his career, we've just kind of settled on this current routine where he plays the first 8 minutes of the game, starts the second quarter and the fourth quarter, and then gets a few minutes in the middle of the second and the fourth to rest. So that's where we are right now, and it's hard to take him out of the game with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and it's a tight game, but we've got to find minutes for him and also maximize his time on the floor. And we like to have him start the second and the fourth. So we're just trying to kind of thread the needle there.
Yeah, so when he came out at that 8-minute mark last night, he was shaking his head, and I'm thinking, well, that could be about 1,000 different things. The internet has decided that he was not happy about being taken out. Can you speak to what was going on there at all?
No, we didn't talk about it after the game. I saw him too, and it could have meant anything. I mean, he had just made a shot, so my guess is he wasn't thrilled about coming out after making a shot. But he trusts me, and I don't, if he's shaking his head, I don't take that personally. I mean, I just feel like we're always collaborating and trying to do the best thing for the team to win. He knows that, I know that, and so it's not a big deal. I know that.
Hard to be too upset, though, considering what happened when he did take that rest. You had multiple big shots from a couple of your others. There was the Podziemski step back, foot on the line, deep right wing. There was the Kyle Anderson fadeaway at the very end of the shot clock buzzer. You got some big buckets from Schroeder. Obviously, you had some points from Looney and GP2 as well. How good was it just to see all of those guys not just score points and make some buckets, but do it in clutch time when your team has struggled a lot of late?
Yeah, that was huge. And sometimes it's your night. I mean, the BP and the Kyle shots, those are difficult shots and not high percentage shots, but clutch moments. They both came through. Loon knocks down a couple of big free throws with a few minutes left. All those guys just stepped up in a big way and helped us finish the game. And that's what it takes, I mean, especially today in today's NBA. I mean, everybody's got three-point shooting. Everybody's playing fast. You've got to score. You've got to find ways to score. It's really hard to win a game just playing defense. And I think, for us, we've got to find additional scoring next to Steph from one night to the next. Last night we found it.
Hey, Coach, did that injury help Brandon Podziemski? It looks to me like the energy you were asking him to have early in the year is now finally here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, and he told one of our coaches that he felt like sitting for those 10 or 12 games helped him kind of see what was happening on the floor, see where he could attack, see what he could do better. To me, he looks really fresh and strong and athletic. And so sometimes a break in the middle of the season can help in that regard too. But yeah, I think this is the best Brandon's ever looked. And it makes sense. He's a really good player. He got off to a slow start this year, but look, he's first team all rookie a year ago. We know what he's capable of, and he's at the top of his game right now. It's fun to watch.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about Buddy Hield because we know the story of his season. Started off great. It's when your team was winning a lot of games, and the shooting has kind of disappeared, at least for stretches. I thought he had a really awesome second half, though, not because he was making shots, but because he became a distributor, and he set a number of teammates up with easy buckets. How good was it to see him contribute in a major way, even if those shots weren't falling?
Yeah, that was awesome, and that's why Buddy's out there. It goes beyond, him just making shots. It's what he does to the defense. So, he had the pass to Looney early in the second half for the dunk. There's a reason the defense is chasing Buddy Hield all the way out to the three-point line. I mean, he's been doing this for a long time in the league. He's one of the best shooters in the league. So even when he's missing, he's a threat. And I just like the catch and shoot nature of his game. The game flows when he's out there. When he's open, he shoots it, and the game continues. And that's where we're at our best. So I know Buddy's going to be a little streaky as a shooter, but he always impacts the game in a good way, whether they go in or not.
Hey, Steve, Bob Myers was on with Steiny and Goo earlier today, and it was certainly an interesting listen. And there was one thing in particular that we wanted to play for you because, as you know, like all of us fans and media, we're so focused on this looming trade deadline. And Bob said something that caught our attention with regard to the games that happen right before the deadline. And this is what he had to say.
It does. It probably changes it more than it should. You have to temper that, though. You have to look at the body of work and say, how real is this? The issue, though, what you're saying is you have to stop. You say you win 4 in a row before the deadline or win 3 in a row. You have to kind of push back on that and go, okay, that was just 3 games out of 48. Let's just pause a little bit. But it's hard to do that sometimes.
So he's talking about the sort of recency bias and the fact that you guys have won 2 in a row. You win this big game over OKC. What's your reaction to that? The recent games and how they might affect decision making?
Well, I mean, I was a GM once for a few years. Not a very good one, but I was a GM, so I know exactly what Bob is talking about. And that's the tricky part of all this. If you're a team like us that's good, not great, that's in the mix, but needs to do better. It's a really tough thing to quantify. What do we need to do to get better? What do we need to do to take a step? And there's no question when you see a game like last night, the temptation is, man, like let's just keep going like this. And why would we do anything? But Bob's right. You can't just look at one game or 2 games. You've got to look at the full picture. And that's what Mike and his staff are doing. It's also why I think it's healthy to have a separation between the management and the coaching staff because as coaches, you're very married to the moment. It's up and down all year long. And I think management, it's a little easier for them to sort of take the view from above, a little more perspective, and really get the information all season long that they need to determine what they're going to do.
What's your view right now on how the players are handling this time and all of the talk that surrounds your team?
I know that they all love it here and want to be here. And I feel the same way about them. One of the things in this business, you get really close to people and you build up, long friendships and collaborations. And when you're as lucky like we have been to win championships and go to battle, so to speak, with these guys, you don't want to see any of them go. It's hard. And, so that's the difficult part. I think the players all understand the business, especially the vets. They get it, but that doesn't make it any easier. This is really the toughest part, I think, of the business is right now, trade deadline and a team kind of in flux trying to figure out what to do. It's a tough spot for everybody.
Coach, you're kind of touching on what I wanted to ask you next. How do you balance what you're talking about, the guys that you've grown to love and guys that are great culture builders in the locker room versus trying to go out there and just put together the most talented team you possibly can? Where's the balance there between making sure you've got the good culture guys, but also putting out, the most talented roster you possibly can?
Well, we know talent wins in this league. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed to win if you have talent, but if you don't have enough talent, you can't go anywhere. That's just the reality. So the question, we have to ask ourselves, and Mike and the front office have to ask themselves, is do we have enough talent? And that's a tricky question to ask, because on some nights, like last night, you go, hell yeah, we do. Like that looked great. But then other nights, it's clear, like Steph could use a little help scoring wise, or we could use this, or we could use that. And then of course you sit there and you look at all the options, and you have to determine, does this really help us? And that's what this time is all about. Mike is, gathering all the information, all the possible trades he can make, and and then going from there.
Coach Kerr with us here, Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Coach, especially if you do listen to fans and media, like when we watch sports, I think most of the focus is on the offensive end. And so when people are thinking about what may or may not happen next week, they're thinking about the offensive side of the ball. But there could really be a cost on the defensive side. How do you balance that, the sort of the offensive side and the defensive side in terms of roster building?
Well, I have always, as a coach, I've always leaned defense in my decision making. I just have always felt like if you can't get stops, it's just really hard to win games by outscoring people. This season has been a little different in some ways. I think we've had more trouble scoring at times than we've had in the past, and it's made the decision making a little trickier. But I don't know. It's hard for me to watch Gary Payton last night, watch Looney, and see their impact, and ever really change my view that defense wins games. I mean, it's yes, you got to score, but man, those guys. I mean, I've been watching it for years. You think about the 22 playoffs. Loon against Memphis and that whole series, and Gary against Boston. As soon as he got back, we won 4 out of 5 games. These guys are big time winners, and I love coaching them, and I just believe in them, and I know organizationally we do, and so that's where you see a game like last night, you just go, hey man, these guys, we need these guys, and they are big impacts on winning. There's no question.
Speaking of last night specifically, Coach, and about the defense, I want to ask you about SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, probably the favorite to win the MVP. I know he scored 52. Your team as a whole, though, played an awesome defensive game. What's the challenge in defending SGA? From an outsider perspective, it kind of reminds me of James Harden on the Rockets. How do you go about trying to limit him? I mean, he scored 52, but you got the win.
Well, whenever we play him, the focus is keeping him off the foul line, and that obviously didn't work last night. He got 21 free throws. We go into games thinking, if we can hold him to 6 or 8 free throws, we got a really good chance to win. And because he's going to make a lot of mid-range shots. You kind of live with that. You want to just take away the easy stuff, and you keep him from getting layups and transition and a bunch of free throws. But easier said than done. He is maybe the toughest guy to guard in the league, just one-on-one. And the good thing for us last night was that we were playing with the lead in much of the fourth quarter. And if not the lead, at least it was tied or a 1-point game, where we were close. So we could at least live with some of his one-on-one stuff because we weren't giving up 3-point shots. And the tough thing is, when he's going and you blitz and they start making threes, you're in big trouble. So we kind of made a calculated decision last night to play him one-on-one for the most part and mix in a little zone and try to keep the other guys down. And it worked, but next time it might not. You got to adapt from game to game.
Steve, everyone was interested to see Quinten Post start last night, and then whatever you saw there in those first handful of minutes led you to not go back to him. First off, what was it that you saw there in the first quarter that maybe wasn't working?
Well, it was it's a lot to ask for a rookie center to go against the best team in the league. Probably the best one-on-one player in the league, pick and roll. So Shai got hot early. We decided to go to Loon. Loon's our best defensive center. We know that. And it just turned into a Loon game. So Quinten's going to keep playing. I mean, he's an important player for us. We really like what he can do. So I'm not discouraged at all. That was just us, making a decision on what we needed to do to win the game last night.
It's clear that you see, at least, you see something in the future of this player, at least as a rotational player. What's going on there throughout the year? Like when do you really know that you're like, hey, we got something here with this individual?
Well, when you see him in camp as a pick and pop big, but not a guy who is afraid of contact. He's a real 7-footer. 5 years of college. He's physical. You see all that in training camp, and you realize, man, this is something we could really use this year. So then it's a couple months in Santa Cruz. Let's really help him develop, and I thought he did a great job, and the Santa Cruz staff did a great job of helping him defensively the last couple months, and it just seemed like the right time last week to give him some minutes and help open up the floor, and he did a great job of it. So it's fun to see him out there. He looks like a player to me. He's going to be around for a long time, and somebody who can open up the floor for Steph. So I'm excited about Quinten.
Steve, before you go, and this is off subject, but Adam Silver yesterday publicly stated that he's at least intrigued by the idea of 10-minute quarters to sort of help all of this health stuff with players around the league. What do you think about that?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, I'm not saying it's, for sure the right thing to do, but I like is adding a week to the season. Just in the one calendar week, start camp a week earlier or whatever, spread out the games more. We got to think of everything we can do, because the one thing we know, the league is not going to cut games out of the schedule. I wish they would, but they're not going to. I don't think any of the constituents are going to agree to that just because of the revenue loss. But if we're not going to do that, then shortening the games, lengthening the calendar season so you get more rest for the players, I'm all for that.
Steve, love having you as always. Thank you so much. What a win last night, and good luck tomorrow night.
Thanks for having me, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, we definitely will. There he goes. Coach Steve Kerr with us here on Willard and Dibs. Okay, a lot to chew on there.
Interesting as always.
Yep, we will react to all of that. We're brought to you by Fremont Bank. Here for you, here for good. You can react to all of that. 888-957-9570, the number. Do you feel last night was a repeatable act for the Golden State Warriors? We'll take your phone calls on that. And I don't know about you, Grandy. I had one very specific sort of overarching observation to listening to Steve in terms of a clue about what's about to happen next. And I'll share that with you next, okay? That's coming up on Willard and Dibs.